This is Lenovo's Legion 7i 16-inch OLED display, and it comes in two different configurations. There's this exact model. This is a demo unit I got from Lenovo just for a month. I have to send it back when I'm done. This one has the Intel Core Ultra 7, the 255HX, 32 gigs of RAM, and RTX 5060, 1 terabyte of storage. Now, if you jump up to the more expensive model, you get the Intel Core Ultra 9 275HX with the 5070, also 32 gigs of RAM. And that's it, just those two configurations. Now, really the key difference between the two is going to be the GPU. The more expensive one, which is $2,180, has that 5070, and then this one has the 5060. It's priced at $1,870. Okay, I've already seen these go on sale, and it's very common for Lenovo laptops to go on sale. So don't get too crazy about the price because you could probably get it for 10% or 15% less here during the holiday season. Anytime there's a major US holiday, I can only speak for the States, there's a sale at Best Buy, at Lenovo's website, etc. Okay, now what you're paying for at this laptop is the very cool design and excellent build quality. So I want to show you the design and the build quality, then talk about the keyboard and the display, the trackpad, everything, and then we'll cap it off with some gameplay footage so you can see what it's like to game on this thing, at least through the lens of a camera. Okay, first things first. The Legion branding, I think, is outstanding. I love the way the font is, and I love this cutout design on over the letter O. It looks great. Now, Lenovo also put their brand right here, the Lenovo with kind of the chrome reflective design here. This would have been blank otherwise, and I think it would have looked a little bit weird. So I think it's cool they have this here. Now, the camera cutout array does annoy me aesthetically, but it's actually very functional. So if you need to open, well, whenever you're opening your screen, you can just put your finger right here, and I'll show you another angle of it in a moment. Gives you a really solid place to lift the display up from. Also now down here at the bottom, the lid is raised compared to the bottom of the chassis. So there is a separation there. Historically, with Legion laptops, particularly the Pro line, this offsetting was a little bit more pronounced. The display was even a bit thicker, and all of the I/O, like 90% of the I/O was in the back. Now we have just two little I/O ports in the back, the power port and the HDMI out. That's all you have in the back in terms of ports. You'll see a lot of grills. I think it's a great design, hexagonal in nature. I think it looks very good. You may notice some bent coils here. That wasn't me. It's whoever had this before me, whichever reviewer. Shame on you. But anyway, I'm just joking. I don't know. Okay, I love this chrome wrapper, and you're going to see it persistent across the entire device. So now here on the right-hand side, we have a full USB-A port, a physical camera shutoff switch, which I think should be mandatory on all laptops, and then a full-size SD card reader, and a nice uniform layout across the entire side. On the other side, you have even more I/O. A headphone jack, a USB-C port, Thunderbolt port, and then one more USB-A port. Plenty of I/O on this thin and light gaming laptop. Now, the front. The laptop continues with that chrome design, and then you can see here that cutout. I'm holding this at an angle, so it's looking more pronounced through the camera. It's really not that bad. It's been worse over the years. So again, aesthetically, I don't love it, but functionally, it's awesome. Now here on the bottom, we don't look at the bottom too much, but hey, I think it's important to know what you're buying. You have a kind of a thinner piece of plastic down here, easy to access screws, and then this nice cutout here. If you stare at it too long, it gets a little, like your eyes will go crossways, but it's good. Okay, we have our feet as well, and one thing that you'll notice when I open the lid is that it rocks on the table. But I don't think that's going to happen to you if you buy a brand new one. Whoever was using this previously as a reviewer, they did something, I'm telling you, because this isn't normal. I've reviewed, 100 plus Lenovo laptops. They don't rock. No, that doesn't happen. Okay. I mean, they rock, but they don't rock on it. Yeah, you know what I mean. Keyboard. So we have per key RGB backlighting. The letter O continues with that design of that very special Lenovo font. Let's do this here. And you have 6 different profiles that you can program to switch between the lighting patterns and colors and speed and all that stuff that you prefer. The keyboard is excellent, not just in the way that it feels when you're typing on it, but also the strength of the backlighting. There are 4 stages of lighting, so you hold down function and press up. You'll get to the maximum brightness, and then you can just work your way down until it's off. Boom. Very bright. I love it. It looks great. All the multimedia or secondary functions are also illuminated, so it doesn't matter if you don't have to memorize these things. They're all going to be easy for you to access because they're all going to be visible in your in the daytime or at nighttime, which is pretty great. Power button is here, also with that Lenovo that looks like the letter Y cut in there. I think it looks awesome. All right, so trackpad. I gotta talk about that before I get to the screen. Trackpad placement is consistent with other Lenovo laptops. It's below the spacebar, centered, leaving room for full-sized arrow keys and a full-size number pad. I appreciate that. Feels like this one is a little lower than normal. I don't have any other Legions in front of me to compare to. And I think the reason for that is that if this were higher, your palm would be up on the chassis. And even though this isn't very sharp, it might be uncomfortable. Instead, your palm's going to be down here, maybe on your desk or free floating, and then you wouldn't be having that issue potentially. I think that's why they did it. Now, the trackpad is glass, which is great, but it's not haptic. And I think that at this point, we should have haptic trackpads, especially from major laptop manufacturers like Lenovo. If you're making a laptop that costs $1,600, $1,900, let's get some haptic in there. It's a much better experience because what you have, as I've demonstrated with the chassis, is a very rigid aluminum, for the most part, beautiful design. It's a great laptop chassis. Then you open it up, you get a great keyboard, great lighting, great display, and then unfortunately not an excellent trackpad, just a good trackpad. So 1 point of contention. All right, the display, you can push it down nearly flat, almost 180 degrees. And what you have here is a 16-inch 1600p OLED display. Try to get more of this on camera here. This is a gorgeous display. It has one issue, and that's the reflections. If you're playing at nighttime, not just playing, right? If you're working early in the morning before it gets too bright, or at nighttime gaming, it's not going to bother you. Not at all. But once you introduce light into your room, then you start to see more of these reflections. Now you can see me. And even though this does get quite bright, that unfortunately really hurts the experience. Okay, gaming. I want to get to gaming, but I feel like I have to talk about battery life for a moment first. Here's where I'm at on battery life. I've done 2 things. I've operated this laptop on battery in eco mode, the battery saver mode, and it's not terribly impressive battery life. Even right now, it's nearly empty. I'm at 26% with 1 hour and 1 minute remaining, and I'm not really doing anything. I've got Steam open, the settings, file manager, and 1 Chrome browser. So not heavy demand, and yet the discharge rate seems to be pretty high. I've also operated it on battery without the eco mode enabled. And at full power, the estimated battery life was 4 hours. So if you extrapolate the current battery life and the battery percentage, eco mode may yield the same battery life as standard, like just balanced mode, which is a bit weird. I haven't done a full hardcore battery test on this thing. Believe me, you're not buying it for the battery life. It's still a gaming laptop, and it has a powerful HX CPU in it. The demand is going to be higher than if you had a truly mobile CPU in here. All right, gaming. Oh gosh, one more thing. It does have Face ID for unlocking. You probably noticed that when I fired it up. Okay, gaming. What I'm going to show you next is gameplay footage and like real-time FPS of Chronos: The New Dawn, Dead Space, and Resident Evil 4. All 3 games in honor of today. It's Halloween. So let's get to it. So before we get too far into the gaming benchmarks, I just want to call out Legion Space. So here you can set your performance mode from quiet to balanced performance, or you can go full custom if you want to, but I just kept it on balance for all of these tests that you're about to see. If you want to, you could definitely jack it up to performance mode. I do that on my Lenovo desktop from time to time, just depending on what I'm playing. You will see an FPS boost for sure. But as you'll see in these videos, the fans are already quite loud, even in balanced mode. So it may not be a great idea to increase the wattages to the GPU. All right, let's get back to it. So as I mentioned during the review, the reflections on the screen are pretty high, and you can already see some of my background in my office and like maybe see my hand waving. Meanwhile, it is the middle of the day. I've got the blinds shut. It's pretty dark in here, and you can still see some reflections. But let's put that aside and start playing. So we're at native resolution, which is 1600p. That's asking a lot of this 5060, although we are getting about 35 frames per second. It's playable. It's not ideal for a faster paced game. Chronos the New Dawn is a lot like Resident Evil and Dead Space, which I'll show you in a moment, but even slower and even more methodical in every action that you take and every time you die and respawn and get going again. So like I mentioned, 1600p. Let's take a look at the other settings I have here and then we'll move on to the next game. Quality preset is set to medium. Now, for these 5000 series GPUs, I think the idea is to go ahead and use things like frame generation and dynamic resolution and super sampling if you can get it to work, and to really try and get the most out of these devices. So I'm going to set it to performance mode, keep that preset where it is, and let's see what happens next. Okay, we've nearly doubled our FPS. We've more than doubled it now. It still looks great. I'm not seeing any frames, any ghosting or frame tearing, which is excellent to see. Okay, a little stutter there as we change rooms. This is, I think, a game that loads dynamically. I mean, these reflections, right? Like I said, it's playable. It's just not going to be like playing on a desktop. So we can go back here. Let's see. Can't get frame gen to work, probably because of this. There we go. Okay, now we've got frame gen, so let's take a look at this. All right, with frame generation on, we're still using DLSS. Now we're up to about 90 frames per second, 80, 90, right around there. Some more slowdowns and hesitation. I mean, really inconsistent stuttering. We may get the same thing in Dead Space because it uses a similar type of loading system. Playable, just not ideal. All right, let's move on to the next game. Our settings here, no dynamic resolution scaling. DLSS is enabled for anti-aliasing, and we're at native resolution. DLSS mode is set to automatic, graphics quality set to automatic. In Dead Space Remake, one of the best games ever, in my opinion. Again, can't get over how just freaking beautiful this display is. Not seeing any tearing. Looking really smooth. Over 100 frames per second, as you can see. Let's kill our first bad guy. Got him. Let's get a couple more. I mean, there's a decent range here, but for the most part, that range of FPS is not affecting my comfort with the game. It's looking real good. Hang on, gotta get out of here. Awesome. It dropped down to 81, which is a pretty big dip from 119. But again, it's very smooth and I can enjoy, this is one of my favorite games. I can absolutely enjoy it on this machine. Again, it's just a 5060 GPU. Let's take a look at Resident Evil 4. And now with Resident Evil 4 Remake, we have the FSRS set to performance mode. Texture quality is on high, and we're nearly maxing out this graphics memory on this 5060. Everything else is set to about mid or high, and we're at native resolution. Let's get into it. We're at about 120 FPS. 132. A little choppy. Not as smooth as Dead Space was, but I think a little smoother than Chronos. One 125 is looking good. So let's see what we can do with this. Okay, I've increased the textures. Not much of a drop here in this area. Let's go back up. Awesome. I think an important question to ask is if you love the way this laptop looks, you want that portability, thinness, the beautiful white design, do you get the 5070 or the 5060? And I think this is a pretty clear demonstration that the 5060, if you use some of those 5000 series specific functions like dynamic resolution scaling, frame generation, you get a good experience. This is a AAA title. It's not that old. It's a remake of one of the best games ever, and it runs great on this. The fans are loud, but you throw some headphones on. It is a gaming laptop. You can't lose your full identity. So that's part of your calculus here. It's going to have to be, deciding if you can live with that, if you want to spend the extra $300 at full retail price on a 5070. I don't have the 5070 model, so I can't test it. But a lot of people out there are disappointed that that 5070 is the highest configuration and you can't go with the 5070 Ti and get 12 gigabytes of VRAM. All stuff that you got to think about. So yeah, that's the Legion 7i. I love this machine personally. It's probably the one that I would buy because I feel like a full 7i Pro is too big and too heavy for travel. And I think 14-inch laptops are not big enough for gaming. So this is a nice sweet spot. All right, hope you found this helpful. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.